Thank you. Well, good morning. We'll call this meeting to order, our summer meeting. First of all, thanks to everybody that's joining us today. The entire meeting will be held online today. Jasmine, can you help take roll?
Yes, we'll begin with you, Chair Buchanan.
Here, thank you.
Regent Bao.
Here.
Regent Dombrowski.
Here.
Regent Lozar.
Here.
Regent Southworth. Oh, Chair Buchanan, he just popped in. We want to just give him a minute.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Yes. We're working on it. Okay. I see him. Regent Southworth, we're doing roll call. Can you hear us? Okay, we're going to call him here. We'll move forward. Regent Folkburn.
Here.
Regent Mortensen.
Here.
Commissioner Christian.
I'm here.
Governor Gianforte.
Dylan's excused.
And Superintendent Arntzen is being represented by Christine Mock-Stutz.
Here.
And Chair Buchanan, a quorum is present.
Excellent. Well, first of all, thanks to our fellow board members for joining us this morning. We know how busy everybody is. Certainly an important kickoff to our academic year, a lot of work in front of us. So again, thank you for joining us. I do want to take a moment to welcome our newest regent, Raina Mortensen. Regent Mortensen, thank you so much for joining us. As you all know, Governor Gianforte enjoys the privilege of appointing a student regent each year. Regent Mortensen is no stranger to this group. We've had her as a representative of Mass and as a student body leadership from the University of Montana Western, and have always welcomed your active engagement and participation. Having you step up to the table as a student regent is fantastic for all of us. Thanks for joining us, Raina.
Thank you.
You bet. Today's agenda is brief yet important. Commissioner Christian will start us off with a few comments on the commissioner's report. We'll get a chance to hear from OPI. Thank you so much, Ms. Mock-Stutz, for joining us. And then, as always, we'll have time for public comment later today. With that, let's move. Everyone here, I trust, has received and reviewed a copy of the minutes from our May meetings. Do we have any corrections to be entertained? Great. Not seeing any. We will accept those as proposed. With that, I will pass it over to Commissioner Christian. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Buchanan. And let me re-congratulate you on serving in this new role as chair. You've been incredibly dedicated to higher education in Montana over now spanning into a few decades. And you and I have been able to work together in leadership over the years. I'm just so pleased to see you in this role and really look forward to the good work that we can do together moving forward. So thank you for taking this on, and congrats. Members of the board and campus community, also just like to thank everyone for being here today. Hard to believe that we're approaching mid-July already. Montana's a pretty special place. We all find things to do in the winter to keep us busy, but summer is kind of a special time in Montana. So I hope everyone's getting a chance to get out and enjoy some of the grand splendor that it has to offer with family and friends and those around you. Also pleased to join Chair Buchanan in welcoming Regent Mortensen to the table. Had an opportunity to visit with her a few weeks ago. She came to Ochi and walked through the office with meetings with all the deputies and a number of the different crews there, and got a chance to sort of reacquaint with her new role and all those at Ochi, and just going to be an excellent fit. Want to thank the governor for this nomination and the excellent choice. She will do a lot to advocate on behalf of students with the board and a perspective as a board member and a student to bring to the MUS. So welcome, Regent Mortensen. The campus reports are posted, even our July meeting, we still have them. Lots of great information there. I'd encourage everyone to take a chance to look at those. Since our May meeting, as we discussed at that meeting, Ochi has submitted its proposed budget, LRBP priorities, and those legislative initiatives that we discussed in May to the governor's Office for Budget and Program Planning. We'll continue to work with them as they build the governor's budget throughout the summer, and have a lot more for you as that budget starts to take shape. We get toward our fall meeting, we should have some updates as to where we're at in that discussion. Last but not least, these comments will be brief, but I do want to just pause and take a minute to recognize again the incredible work on the Tech Hub. As we shared with all of you in early July, just a few weeks ago, exciting news: the U.S. Economic Development Administration, EDA, awarded $41 million in implementation funds to the Headwaters Tech Hub. Truly will be a transformative investment in Montana business and industry, and also in the Montana University system. There is a myriad of people to thank. It was absolutely a team effort from business and industry to all across our system and way beyond. I appreciate everyone's effort in pulling that together, but I have to honestly say, I don't know if any of this would have come together without the efforts of our own Joe Teal, masterminding that process, bringing all those players to the table and shepherding this work through has really been a monumental effort on top of all other things, all duties assigned, as they say in the position description, to Joe, and just really appreciate him taking this and moving it forward. It truly is quite a feat. You know, hundreds applied, 30 some were designated, 12 I believe got funded. We're amongst the higher awards. I think the highest award was 51 million, so our 41 stacks up nicely coming out of Montana, and this tech hub will bring lots of exciting opportunities home for us. So I just wanted to take a minute to thank Joe, and I'd like to call on Joe, if I could, to just sort of give us a few thoughts and tell us kind of where we're headed next in terms of what this means. I get stopped a lot on the street. It's great news. What does it mean? I think Joe can help answer some of that.
Yeah, thanks, Clay. And I'll reiterate, this was a huge and unique team effort. I mean, Mary Craigle, the Department of Commerce, Matt Olson, the State Chamber, Paul Gladen, Accelerate Montana, Joe Shaw, Montana State University, Sarah Swanson and her team at the Department of Labor and Industry, a host of industry members, not least Adam Gilbertson. I think that's been one of the unique things about this, and one of the lasting impacts is that it has taken collaborations between state government, the university system, and a set of really key industry across the state to a new level. And that's a big focus of this initial investment. And again, I want to emphasize our hope and our expectation is this is an initial investment into our ecosystem. And one of the advantages is that there may well be future opportunities for federal funding if we use that initial investment wisely. But the theory behind that investment is to build collaboration spaces and training spaces that take the national advantage we have in sensing technologies, you know, things that go into your cars, into drones, into national defense, into environmental management, into infrastructure development, into precision ag, to a next level, and really to make Montana a highlighted space where industry and universities working at the cutting edge can more quickly develop and put technologies into the market. And if I were to say what the impact is going to be, one is the impact we've already seen. If you talk to Director Green at the State Department of Commerce, if you talk to the Montana Photonics and Quantum Alliance, if you talk to the Montana World Trade Center at the University of Montana, this has put a huge magnifying glass on the national stage on the state of Montana and our optics cluster. We were the only optics and photonics designated cluster in the nation, and that's the federal government saying this is where we think we're going to have the cluster of trainers and technologies and manufacturers that will drive our leadership on the global stage. And that's meant for all of those folks, the number of businesses reaching out with interest in the state of Montana, including international businesses, including larger companies than we've seen before, manufacturers and technology directors. Even before the funding announcement, it has gone up 10x. And that's included opportunities to participate in programs like Select USA, had a tour in Western Montana late June that we haven't participated in before in this way. So a whole new set of opportunities to attract new types of business to the state of Montana that are going to create job opportunities across the spectrum of skills. And in that, our second kind of category of investments is in training pathways, including through Salish Kootenai College, training pathways looking at creating better STEM training opportunities for tribal college students around the state, Native students around the state, and at your own MSU Bozeman, who's looking to expand their training opportunities specific to the cutting edge advancements in optics and photonics. So combined, that means better opportunities for students and better opportunities in state when those students graduate. And I just want to end on, I do think we've collaborated well with the variety of folks in this network previously. The way this has come together, the investments that are made, it's deepening that collaboration across sectors in our state, states and folks in our region to a level that we haven't seen before, and is designed in the funding that we're going to put in test beds, collaboration spaces, infrastructure, to take the collaboration that it took to pull this grant together and make it successful to a much, much higher level in future years. So with that, Clay, I'm happy to open up if there are any particular questions from Regents.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we'd just pause for a second and see if anybody has questions.
Yeah, question here, Joe, what's the next step? Because as I understood, there's another round of grants in the future. How will that look and when will we know more about that?
Thank you, Regent Bao. Good question. So the immediate step in terms of this grant program is that we'll confirm the funding that we receive and start working on these projects, which typically have a 2 to 4 year funding timeline. There will have to be decisions at the federal level, kind of what the next stage of funding, but we expect that that will be advocated for and that there will be some level of funding that could come back to these initial 12 that were invested in. In parallel, we're in the final stages of a more research and development focused effort that we coordinated intentionally across the region with this Tech Hub application. And that's the National Science Foundation Regional Innovation Engines Program. North Dakota received a Regional Engines Award from the NSF in Precision Agriculture, and they are a partner as part of the Headwaters Tech Hub Consortium. We have 2 grants at the finalist stage, one at the University of Montana in Precision Forestry, and one at Montana State University in Quantum Technologies. And all of those overlap pretty closely with some of the manufacturing sectors and some of the application spaces that the Tech Hub's going to be working in. Our hope is on those grants, I believe they're due at the end of the year, and we would find out sometime middle of next year. And those are envisioned as decade-long, $160 million investments from the National Science Foundation, focus more on the technology translation side than the business development side that is more the Tech Hub's focus.
Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Christian, you have any further updates on your list?
I think that gets us to introductions. If there's no more questions on the Tech Hub, again, thanks, Joe, for all your work there. I'm gonna ask President.
Commissioner Christian, I'd echo that. Deputy Commissioner Teal, you and your team, this has been a huge swing and a huge hit. And we're just excited that we are at the table to provide leadership and keeping our eyes open on how we can further leverage this investment. Great job.
Hey, Chair Buchanan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey,
Hey,
sorry, I'm way out in like redefining what rural America is. I had to take my wife to a funeral in a place called Bowden, North Dakota. So if the minutes could reflect that I am in attendance, I'm sorry, Jasmine. My only Wi-Fi hotspot within 100 miles, I think, is this pickup. So I am here. Congratulations, Joe, and sorry everyone if I was delayed starting this.
You're great. Regents Southworth, thank you for joining us. Sorry about your wife's loss there. Thanks for joining us today. Commissioner.
Chair, I'll just turn it over briefly to President Bodner for an introduction at University of Montana.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Regents. We have an exciting announcement that we have a new dean for UM's growing College of Health. And we're very excited that this past month, Dr. Matthew G. Fate has joined us at the University of Montana. And Matt brings both impressive experience as well as deep expertise to this role and to our state. He joins us from Chicago State University, where he was a professor of pharmaceutical sciences and the dean of their College of Health Sciences and Pharmacy. Dr. Fate received his bachelor's degree in chemistry from St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia, and his PhD in chemistry and biochemistry from the University of Colorado Boulder. He's an accomplished scholar. He is a wonderful mentor of students, and he's shown just great accomplishments as a leader and as a dean at Chicago State. He and his family have a love for the Rocky Mountain West, and we're so happy to welcome him here, and so excited for what the path ahead brings. And as we welcome Matt, I also just want to briefly again thank Dr. Reed Humphrey for his service as our Dean of College of Health. Reed handed over the reins last month after more than a decade of service. And a decade that saw tremendous growth, enrollment growth by about a third, research growth from $8 million back in 2014 to around $30 million this past year. So huge thanks to Reed for his service and a warm welcome to Matt and his family.
Thank you, President Bodner, and welcome, Matt. Look forward to the good work you'll do at College of Health at the University of Montana. Mr. Chair, as we said, should be a brief meeting. I think that concludes the commissioner's report, and I will hand it back to you to move forward.
Appreciate that. And I echo the welcome to Dr. Fate. I look forward to working with you. Well, thank you, Commissioner Christian. We know that the update on this Tech Hub is one of the many things your office is actively engaged in. So keep us posted. Obviously, we've got some great interest in that. Our valued partners at the Office of Public Construction, Ms. Mock Stutz, thanks again for joining us this morning. If you'd like to share some comments, we've set aside of the agenda for you. Thanks for joining.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I will be brief because I heard that the word of the day is brief remarks. So I have just a few things to share that I think will be of interest of you from the superintendent this morning. First of all, she's looking forward to a meeting next week with the Montana High School Association. Title IX has been in the news of late, and so they're having a meeting next week to discuss Title IX and sports in our schools. So that will be happening for her next week. As we head into the 2025 legislative session, school funding is, of course, an important topic. And we've been hosting our legislative liaison, Katie Bloodgood, has been hosting a budget and education working group. These are online convenings, and she's met with hundreds of stakeholders across the state to discuss education funding. And she's going to put these remarks together in a white paper to be able to share with the legislators as they are planning and working on school funding issues in the next legislative session. So that's been an important piece of work here that she's been working on and gathering that feedback and what is important for our stakeholders, our educators, our families, and all across the state. So I'm looking forward to that report when she finishes that up for us. In an assessment update, we have a contract in place with the ACT for next year. OCHI has funded that for the past several years, many years for us here at the OPI, but we do have a contract in place for that to continue for next year. So our high school juniors will be taking, all high school juniors will be taking the ACT next spring. And then in other assessment news, all schools will be participating for 3rd through 8th grade students in our massed through-year assessment. This is the Montana Aligned to Standards state test. And this test next year will be given instead of one testing window at the end for our 3rd through 8th graders in math and ELA. They will have small testlet windows throughout the school year next year. So this is a shift, and we're the first state in the nation to do this. We have a waiver from the Department of Education that we've been working on as they're supporting our work in this new type of summative assessment. So we're really excited to roll that out with all schools next year. We have training and road shows happening this summer to get all schools prepared and ready to administer this test. So if anyone's interested in joining those road shows, reach out, let me know. I can let you know when one may be near you. But that's an exciting change for us here at the Office of Public Instruction and for our elementary students. And those were the main points that I wanted to bring to you today. So if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, you can reach out to me anytime.
Thank you, Ms. Mockstutz. Any questions or comments for our friends at OPI?
Perhaps maybe a statement that may end up being a question, Chair Buchanan. I'm assuming OPI is going to take a really active role in lobbying to relook at the state's A and B formulas. We've got levies falling across the state to pay our teachers. The taxpayers, the message that we're basically getting loud and clear is that the state of Montana is sitting on surpluses, well beyond, part of the surplus, I believe the taxpayer message is that should be getting circulated back into the A and B funding. I know that multiple levies have failed recently, and I know that there are smart people working on it. I just was curious if you had any comments specifically on that, and if there is a funding formula that looks good that is going to be carried forward.
I would not say we have anything definitive yet on what would be carrying forward. Definitely a lot of conversations. In fact, just in June, the commissioner and I were at the Constitutional Players up at the Capitol, and the funding ideas. There are, Lou Jones brought up some ideas. There are a lot of ideas coming around through these budget and education working groups. There's definitely a need. Everyone I know is we're united on on improving the school funding formulas. How exactly that's going to go forward, I think there's still a lot of discussion I'm looking at, but definitely we are part of the conversations for sure.
Good question, Commissioner. Regent Southworth, anything else on that? Okay. Excellent. Again, Christy, thanks for joining us. Hope your summer's going great. We know you're working tirelessly on behalf of students around Montana. We're appreciative for your time today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Unless any other members of the board have anything else to surface before we jump into the consent agenda, doesn't look like it. We'll jump right in. I believe everybody's had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. If there are any items that any regent would like to move off the consent agenda, I'd welcome a motion to do so at the moment.
So moved.
Great, to move the consent agenda forward. Thank you, Regent Fulport. Excellent. Any discussion from members of the board on this item? Not seeing any. How about any discussion from campuses? Well proposed consent agenda, it looks like. Is there any public comment?
There's not.
Thank you, Jasmine. I appreciate you on that. Seeing no further comment, we'll call for the vote. Please signify those in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Excellent, unanimous passage of the consent agenda. Thank you. Deputy Commissioner Trevor, happy summer, man. Welcome. Looks like we get to pass the agenda your direction for a couple of minutes. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, members of the board. I hope you can hear me all right. The first item we have here is a request for authorization to increase the sustainability fee at the University of Montana. Just a little backdrop on this first. Board policy allows for student-driven fees to be brought to the Regents for approval at any time, rather than what is allotted for all other fees, which is the May meeting following the legislative session. So I think it's good for us to remind ourselves, so what is a student-driven fee? And those of you on the board 2 or 3 years ago will remember that we clarified this in policy. And it reads that student-driven fees are defined as fees that are proposed by a student government, and where the revenue generated from the fee will also be managed by the student government. Proposals for new student-driven fees must be voted on by the student body and supported by the majority of voting students. And as I stated earlier, student-driven fees are exempt from the traditional biennial approval timeline of all other fees. So with that said, let's talk about the sustainability fee. The sustainability fee is a mandatory fee at the University of Montana. It's unique to the University of Montana. And it is a relatively long-standing student-driven fee. And in fact, it has seen very little increase over time. Currently, it is a $6 per semester mandatory fee for all students, regardless of credit load. So everybody pays their $6 each semester. It was last increased in 2013, moving from $4 to $6. This is a request to increase the fee from $6 to $9 per semester, so a $3 per semester increase, and that would start this fall if approved. Just briefly, what are the uses of the fee? This is a dedicated source for sustainability efforts led by the students related to items such as carbon emissions reduction, green buildings, sustainable transportation, smart building monitors. In fact, this dates back to an era where this was called the Smart Building Initiative. Mr. Chair, you might remember that from 2012-13 era. And recycling and other efforts are also funded by this. It's also important to note that the projects that are eligible to receive sustainability fee funds are generated and proposed by UM students and approved by a committee that is developed by the student government. And I believe that the current revenue is roughly around $100,000 per year. This is a fee with a direct line, obviously, to very specific goals and projects. All of the required information has been submitted. You'll notice on attachment 2, there was a student vote. 1,100 students voted, 748 in favor. So a clear majority of the voting students did approve this. Mr. Chair, I'd stop there. I do know we have some student leadership that may be available if needed for further details, but that is the quick rundown.
Appreciate that, Deputy Commissioner. Reminder of process, we'll look for a motion to move this forward and then open it up for discussion. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve action item A.
So moved.
Thanks, Regent Dombrowski. How about members of the board? Any discussion or questions for any of the student leaders or Deputy Commissioner Trevor with us today?
Yeah, Chair Buchanan, just one comment. I'm in support of this very small fee increase, and I just want to underscore our appreciation for all of the attachments and the paperwork. I think over time we've gotten much better at ensuring that we have a better understanding of, one, the number of students that are a part of these elections and making these decisions, and kind of the makeup of or composition of the yeses and nos on some of these referendums and fee increases. So, I mean, when I'm looking at it, 75% of those that voted, which is 1,100 is a lot, voted yes. That just gives me confidence that the students are, for the most part, really behind this very slight increase. So more of a appreciation for OCHI on this one, and making sure that we're going through the process and collecting all the background information that we need to make these decisions. So thank you.
Appreciate that, Regent Lozar. Thank you. Any other observations or questions from members of the board? How about members of the campuses that are with us today? Any comments or questions? I'm looking at Jasmine. Thank you. Not seeing any. All right, any public comment as it relates to action item A?
No.
All right, thank you. Seeing no further comments or questions, I will call for the vote. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Action item A passes. Great, thank you very much. Back to you, Deputy Commissioner Trevor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll head into action item B, which is a request for authorization to construct a new residence hall on the University of Montana campus. This request is to authorize construction and approval of a financing plan. I think that's key to note, for a new 600-bed residence hall on the UM campus. About 5 years ago, UM went through an extensive facilities planning process that resulted in what they call the Student Life Master Plan. And there's some key elements about that plan, I think, that warrant highlighting. One of those is that the plan quickly recognized the need to improve and modernize student housing on the UM campus. In fact, this new residence hall plan is intrinsically related to the replacement of 3 existing dorms, which average in age ranges between 70 and 100 years. And so with the completion of this would move into a phase of the demolition of those 3 dorms. The development of this new dorm is also connected to an overall revitalization of the campus, including an extensive remodeling of another dorm called Knowles Hall, and the connectivity walkway between the student access to dorms and the new dining hall, which I believe is coming online, if not already, but it would be in a couple weeks before the beginning of the fall semester. So I'm repeating a lot of things I believe that the board heard in detail at the March board meeting in an information item leading up to this, but also as well as the expanding on some of the information that the board infrastructure committee got to see firsthand in the month of June when they visited the UM campus to see and hear about these projects. So let's talk about the overall proposal here. If we rewind the clock back to November of 2022, the board approved the initial planning and design for this facility. It was a $5.6 million authorization to expend funds to plan and design. And as a result of the planning, the campus obviously identified a location and a design for the building. You'll see that in attachment 1 are the renderings. And also in attachment 2, which was brought out in the planning and design, is the need to address short-term and long-term parking strategies related to this dorm. So if you recall back to the March meeting and information item, we show a schematic there of exactly where the dorm will be and how short-term parking and eventually long-term parking will address those needs. So earlier in June of this year, bids for the new facility came in, and the low bid for the cost of construction came in at approximately $67 million. resulting in a total project cost of 89 million. And I just want to pause there for a second on the 89 million to clarify one thing. Inside that 89 million is the 5.6 million, which was already authorized and approved back in November of 22. Those funds are paid, that's been paid for, that's expended. So really what we're down to here is an $83 million new spend. You can see the details for that in attachment 3. So funding for the construction of this project will be paid for from a combination of 3 sources: housing, operating, and plant funds, previously issued bond proceeds, and then the majority, about 80% of it, will come from the issuance of new bonds. So it's important to note that U of M will return within this calendar year for the board to give its official blessing to the issuance of a $63 million par amount that is hopefully to produce approximately $69 million of net project funds. That is the bulk of the funding. There's $14 million from the plant fund, housing, operating source that would make up the remainder of the funds. The previously issued bonds are what was used to pay for the planning and design. So following the board meeting, there was a set of next steps. One important next step was to assess the debt capacity of the University of Montana to take on this new issuance of bonds. And so 2 separate parties were engaged to do this analysis, Morgan Stanley and Janney Financial Advisors. And to summarize, a lot of the detail is in attachment 4, but just to broadly summarize, both agreed that the issuance of these new bonds would not likely affect Moody's credit rating of the institution. So that rating, it's important to note that analysis was done on $85 million of new debt. At that time, there was an assumption that this was going to be more expensive than what it ultimately came in after the bids. So the new debt, again, will constitute $63 million. And that analysis of pro forma debt service coverage, the ratios, it is determined that would keep U of M in a competitive position to similarly rated peers. Again, that detail is available in attachment 4. And then finally, I think it is important to note that the financing of this project is not contingent on future residence hall rate increases. So it is all paid for within current operations, in addition, obviously, to the issuance of these new bonds. But the campus is able to absorb those and carry forward without transferring the cost to new residence hall recipient students. Mr. Chair, I'll stop there and look for any questions. I see President Bodner, and I know his crew is available as well to answer anything that the board might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner Trevor. I know Commissioner Christian and I were visiting earlier a little bit about process. Commissioner, you had a couple of comments you wanted to insert here.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Buchanan. I want to thank the board for its leadership and just acknowledge the work that's gone into what is a fairly new process. The infrastructure subcommittee of the board spent the larger part of a day on campus, really understanding the project from finance, debt capacity. Many of the things that Tyler spoke to today were a direct result of those conversations. And I think for maybe the first time, I don't know if we should say this out loud or not, but we fully understand sort of the package brought in front of the board. And I think it allows us a much new visibility point to help as your staff due diligence on this project. What is in the best interest of the state and how will it affect us long term? And so I really appreciate the work that's went into it, but the process that's been developed and led by the board in getting us to sort of a new place around these projects. I look forward to more of these discussions as we move forward. I appreciate Ochi's involvement, Tyler, Shauna, the campus, Paul Lassiter, and the crew from facilities. This is a good project, a needed project, one that's identified through a multi-year process, one that is brought forward with a good plan behind it. We very much support it, and just appreciate all the work that went into it, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'd echo to the gratitude towards the infrastructure committee. Had a good report that it was a good meeting on campus. So thank you for your time and commitment you're putting there. We'll have some further discussion if we can move this forward. So I'd entertain a motion to approve action item B.
So moved.
Thank you, Regent Lozar. The motion's been approved. Other members of the board, any discussion, questions, comments from you all? Regent Bao.
Yeah, I think we should acknowledge that it's must have been a thorough and efficient, good package put together, and that, I think the bids come in below expectations for the first time in 5 years on any project in Montana. Is a sign that everyone did their homework and we got good results, and that's something to be acknowledged in this process, since that's not usually the discussion we have on around a build project. It's for the past few years.
Exactly right. Thank you. We may be getting some relief in the bond markets with rates dropping a little bit as well. Good time to be considering. Any other comments or questions from members of the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to underscore Clay's comments that he made. From the work that's happened for years on the campus. I mean, this has been strategic for 7 or 8 years of kind of working to this place to be able to put in a new residence hall. Folks that are on campus now and some folks that are no longer on campus have contributed to getting us to this point where, like, we have, again, this level of confidence that we have walked around this issue, the residence halls at University of Montana, and specifically this residence hall, for a number of years. And I do think the infrastructure subcommittee was maybe a little bit of a testing of a strategy for the board. And I think it is maybe one of the most important things that we've done in the past few years. So not only do I support this project, I support us continuing to lean into the infrastructure subcommittee. One final comment. I know the university has put a lot of thought into parking, and I appreciate having some additional details on both the short and midterm parking strategies that need to be explored to accommodate this residence hall and the other changes that have happened on campus. So I think it's something that we need to continue to keep an eye on, that we're ensuring that we are following through with all the parking constraints that exist at the university. So I'll be enjoying watching the residence hall go up, and I will be enjoying watching us addressing the long-term parking issues at the university. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Regent Lozar. You've been very actively engaged in this project since inception. Thank you for that. Any other members of the board have comments or thoughts? I'm not seeing any. How about members from campuses? Anybody want to weigh in with any additional info?
Do not see any.
I see President Bodnar jumping in.
Just one quick thank, Mr. Chair, and to the Regents. I just want to thank the board for your partnership on this. I mean, this has been we have a beautiful campus here. We're blessed with beautiful geography. That geography presents some challenges at times, being constrained by a mountain and a river and a neighborhood. And so as we've gone through this planning process, we've been very cognizant, both of those constraints, the kind of long-term footprint of this campus. I'm very cognizant that the decisions we make today are going to be assessed by generations of people after us. And so this has been a very a partnership approach throughout this student life master plan, and with the residence hall in particular, and it's helped us get to good decisions. Frankly, looking at the cost, I mean, part of the reasons the bids came in lighter than we initially proposed is, and a huge kudos to Jamil and his team. I have to applaud Paul and Jamil and Paula, but a lot of value engineering went into this process. So it's not I mean, it was a nice surprise, but it wasn't just out of thin air that those savings were realized working with the architect team. And so really, and that was, again, I think an outcrop of the infrastructure committee, the focus on this, that we're doing this planning together. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for letting us walk through this with you. And I think this is just a great example of the type of partnership that gets us to good decisions for future generations of Montanans.
Thanks for your leadership on this, President Bodnar. Appreciate it. Regent Southworth, did I miss a hand there?
Yeah, no, I was just, I don't want to pile on to duplicate everything that's been said. I want to echo what Regent Lozar said, that the infrastructure committee, the brainchild behind that. Thank you, Commissioner Christian, Deputy Commissioner Tyler, and Trevor, especially for the leadership in corralling us to do this, and to Seth, Paul, and team. Cool part about this is that, I mean, we took the 5,000-pound gorilla was first up to bat, and we worked through it together. And maybe sometimes sitting at if I was sitting in Paul's chair, I'd be like, oh my gosh, wow, this is a step backwards to explain this, or do these people like this or whatever. But really, it helped us become educated on what you're doing, and it allows the Regents to become like your highly value added ambassadors to the success of the campuses. So I just appreciate the opportunity to be involved in this, and I just want to applaud the structure that was put in place to go through this. And like Regent Bao said, I mean, and then cherry on top, here we are, we're 20 million under budget, or whatever that ended up coming out with. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Regent Southworth. I know you too have been actively engaged here. Appreciate that engagement. Any other comments or questions from campuses or Regent? I'm not seeing any. Jazz, is there any public comment as it relates to this item?
I do not see any.
Thank you, Jasmine. Appreciate that. Seeing no further comments, we'll call for the vote. Those in favor of signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Excellent. Again, unanimous passage of action item B. Good job, everyone. A summer morning, wrapping up with efficiency. I appreciate the Commissioner's office for a tidy agenda. Before I jump to public comment, prior to wrapping up this meeting, any other items at the wish of any board member to be surfaced today for discussion? Not seeing any. Okay. Public comment. Since this is a public meeting, we not only required to, but enjoy the opportunity to call for public comment. Public comment may be offered on items on this meeting's agenda or on any other matter not on the agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the Board of Regents. Written public comment may also be sent to Jasmine Casanovas at jcasanovas@montana.edu. To allow us to give everyone a chance to comment, please limit your comment to 3 minutes. Jasmine, do we see any public comment on today?
I do not see any public comment.
Call for it one more time. Any public comment as it relates to any item on this agenda or anything under the jurisdiction of the Board of Regents? Jazz, one more check.
There is no public comment.
All right, clean. Well, to everyone that joined us, not only board members, but the numerous staff members, we know summer does not mean that everyone's feet are up and we're waiting for work to hit us again in August. Everyone's working their tail off. Appreciate your engagement, your work, and we really look forward to convening again in September in Billings. At the same time, it's really important I hear my colleagues telling Clay, your staff, and everybody that's helped prepare today's agenda. Great job. Keep up the good work. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you. Have a good day.